Hello everyone and welcome to Great Deltan. Today I will be adding detail to the track of the section spanning from the station area all the way to the branch line area. You join me after having taken a bit of a break away from the layout in order to devote some time that I usually would on the layout to finish another project that I had going, which was this ship you see here. That had been sitting around for a long time and I just wanted to get it finished, so I've finally finished that now. The ship itself is actually 1:150 scale, being very close to British N gauge. Of course I don't actually have the room on this layout to accommodate it, so for now it will just be a display model and then it might have some use on a future layout perhaps. But I've finished it and I'm back on the layout now. So what I'll do quickly before I start on the track detail is I'll just get through a few updates of things that have been going on behind the scenes during this time. First of which has been the hunt couplings. I've bought a few batches of hunt couplings and have been testing various pieces of stock with them to see which ones are compatible, and I've had a few successes and then a few failures. One of the main successes which I'm quite happy with has been the Freightliner hoppers, which are notorious on my layout for derailing and coming uncoupled, but with the addition of the hunt couplings they are working as they should now and I'm quite happy with that. I think that's mainly due to Dapol's couplings which allow for lateral movements around curves, so they've been good. The other ones that haven't gone so well have been the Graham Farish stock with the fixed couplings onto the actual bogies, so I might have to stick with NEM couplings on that and look at something else like tacky wax. Another success has obviously been the HST, which is what they originally were designed for with the close couplings, so they're working out okay. I'm not going to go through much more about hunt couplings because there's plenty of videos out there. Pride Parkway, Piccadilly Model Railway and my good friend over at Western Parkway have all got some good videos, so I recommend you check out some of their channels if you want to look at any reviews or installation videos. Next thing I got round to was finally replacing the fluorescent tube light that was going down the centre of the shed with an LED. It's made the video quality slightly better, but I'm still getting the odd ripple effect whenever I focus on something light, but it is a bit brighter in here. I've had an overall tidy of the shed. I've moved a load of things around so I can clear everything off the layout, as a lot of my videos did include quite a lot of clutter just sitting on the layout. But now that's all down on the shelf and everything from that shelf has gone away somewhere or it's been gone to a charity shop. So it's a lot tidier in here and the layout is a lot cleaner and clearer. The next thing I've just tested was adding light bars to the HST stock. I've only bought the one, so I wanted to see whether it wanted a white or a yellow light inside the coaches, but after having tested one I'm quite happy to go ahead and get the rest when I can afford some more light bars. I'll just show you what that looks like in the dark quickly. So I think that'll look quite good going around the layout in the dark if I add them to all 7 of my coaches. The next thing I've done is invested in an airbrush. This is for 2 main reasons. One of them is I want to weather the track on this section and I want to do it with an airbrush as opposed to a paintbrush, as I think you get a better finish. And the second reason is I'd like to start weathering my stock when I become a bit more competent with using it, as obviously stock is expensive and I don't want to ruin it. The last thing I'll go through is the addition of some new stock to the layout. Firstly, I've bought 5 more of these 46-ton wagons by Graham Farish. They are a discontinued product, but I managed to get 5 off the Hatton's pre-owned page. So that's increased my rake of those to 12. The next thing I've done is bought another 6 intermodal wagons, which takes my total up to 30. Now you're probably saying 30 is quite a lot for a small layout like this, and it is, to be honest. But the main reason I bought these is because someone was selling them for £175 for 5 sets of 2, and usually they're £72 brand new, so I thought that was a bit of a bargain, and hopefully one day I can have a rake that long that will go on a layout and look normal. So they might just be sitting around for a bit, but they also had containers which I don't have, such as the Geist one. The last thing I bought on terms of rolling stock is 5 more MBA wagons by Graham Farish, so that takes my total rake up to 17. The only problem I do have with these is uncoupling, so I'll have to look at trying something to keep them coupled, and then I'll have a full rake of 17 going around. And then the last thing I bought is the DB Schenker Class 66, which we'll probably look at one of my first weathering projects. It's DCC fitted and it's running nicely now. So on to track detail. Now track detail for me on a layout adds a lot of interest and realism, as it's very rare in real life that you'll just find track and ballast. Now when I started the layout back in October, I was pretty much a novice to permanent layouts, as I'd only ever had anything out on the carpet. So I did rush a few of the early stages, and that being this big scenery section around here, which is pretty much just track and ballast, as I just said. So I was trying to avoid that on the next section. I might one day add a bit more detail to this area, but it's not something I'm looking at right now. So I will be adding quite a bit of detail to the section because, yeah, it does add a lot of interest and it's a lot more realistic. The first thing I'll be adding are some catch pits. Catch pits are used along the railway to catch, as they say, sludge and debris and things that may flow along the drainage system, so they'll be dotted here and there. The ones I'll be using are the ones from scale model scenery. They're laser cut. I just pop out and give them a quick paint, and then I'll stick them down with some glue. So I'll do that and then we'll get back to you. So that's all the catch pits now stuck in place. So the next thing we'll look at is the line side trunking. Now I've actually done all of the line side trunking, I've stuck it all down, and that's because I started doing track detail and then realised I actually wanted to film this video. So for the track trunking, I have used the Ratio N-gauge trunking kit. I think you get about 8 lengths of straight, and then you get a bunch of T-joints as well. And then I've painted that with a Humbrol matte 28, which is sort of close to concrete colour. Down here I've done a bit of experimenting with weathering it, and for that I've used the Humbrol black wash. I'm quite happy with that, so I will most likely be doing it to the rest of the trunking line. The next thing I'm going to look at is a walkway from the signal box up to the platform. Now for that I've got the scale model scenery trackside walkways, the grated ones. But what I'm first going to do is I'm going to stick some cardboard down following the route as to elevate the grated walkway above the ballast. Just for that I'm going to use some cardboard, which will be roughly the same thickness as the sleepers, and then I'll paint that grey, and then once I've ballasted I'll stick the walkways down and sort of give the impression that the walkways are sitting on the ballast. I could just put the walkways on the ballast without putting any of the cardboard in, but I want them to sit quite straight and level, and I think the only way to achieve that is to put some sort of base down. So I'll be putting some cardboard down and then putting the walkways on top. I will also have a little ramp here when the ballasting is done, because this area will one day be a car park, so there'll be access to the signal box from the car park and also from the platform. The next piece of track detail which I'll be looking into is signalling. I'm no expert at signalling, I'm not sure exactly where they go or what type I should use, so this is merely a guess, but I'd like some basic signalling in the station area, just to control access and egress from the station. I'll be using the Gauge Master 2-aspect colour light signals to sort of signal this area. So I'll be having 3 line side mounted ones and 3 platform mounted ones. I've already installed the signal which will control the egress from platform 1 just as a test to make sure it works and that I'm competent in installing them, which is fine. I'll be wiring the signals into a 12 volt DC supply which I bought from Amazon and just controlling them with these on toggle switches. Each signal will be positioned to the left of the track. So this signal here will control egress from this platform, this one here from there, that one there from this platform, this will control egress from this platform, and this one over here will be for the freight line. That one was there is a mistake which I drilled, which I'll need to cover up. And then obviously the one that I've already done for platform 1. Further down the line I'll be putting in a signal gantry with 3 heads on to control access into the station. But I'll get to that in a bit as that's quite a big build. For now we shall just install the line side and platform mounted signals and we shall get back to you. So that's all of the signals that are on the station and line side mounted and wired in. So we will now move on to the signal gantry. The signal gantry is going to be quite a long process as I'll be scratch building it. So I'm actually going to film another video completely about the build of it. So for this video I'll just tell you what I'm using. I have some signal heads which I bought from someone on Facebook. These are pretty much the same as these, they're just the heads, so the Gauge Master ones. For the actual gantry I'll be adjusting and kit bashing the Scenic gantry range, which I think are aimed at more catenary, but there's really not much on the market in terms of N-gauge signal gantries, so I'll be making my own and I'll be using the gantry from the Scenic. That's the 4-track one. And then some ladders from PD models, that can be for access to the gantry heads, for the signal head, sorry. And then I'm also going to put a cat ladder on it, on the side of it. So hopefully with all this together it should make a fairly good looking signal gantry. And then just a sheet of plastic card for the platforms. So I'll build that now, and obviously I said I'm making a different video for the build entirely, and I'll get back to you when that's finished. So here is my signal gantry made out of the kits that I described. It's controlled via some on toggle switches, and in terms of signalling, that is as much as I want to put on this section of track. So we shall now move on. The next thing I'll be looking at is point motors. If you watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I originally didn't actually plan to have any. But after purchasing a big bundle of track with some point motors included, I thought I'd just stick these on. So I'm left with these big bulky point motors which I'd like to disguise somehow. I've seen some people do it by putting bushes or just painting them. I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to be lining the sides with this brick sheet from Scale Model Scenery. And then on the top I've got some corrugated plastic card which I'll be making into sort of a roof, and the idea is that it will mimic a sort of permanent way hut, storage hut, which could also house some of the point mechanical and electric aspects of it. So I'll be getting on with that, and I'll probably do that to every point motor, and hopefully that should disguise it quite well. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll just paint the 3 wires coming out of it in a sort of concrete grey colour. Well, that sort of went how I wanted it to. Obviously the roof became unstuck a little bit, but I'll stick that down once it's dry. Overall it's not too bad. I'll probably go over the roof again. What I've done is I've disguised all the legs of the point motor with some concrete paint and then weathered it down with the homebrew black wash. And I've done the same for the arms of the point mechanism. And then for the top I've just gone over it with the dirty, I went over it originally with a wooden colour matte enamel, and then I've washed that down again with some homebrew black wash. And then for the roof I've just gone over it with an aluminium paint and then weathered it down with some rust. So I'll go over this one and then I'll do the rest and then we shall move on. So now that's all the point motors disguised in some way or another. They've turned out more or less how I wanted to, though they don't look quite like how they should as a hut. But they're disguised some way, so I'm happy with that. In the meantime, we've also got on with putting in some orange trunking. There's nothing readily available on the market, so what I've done is I've taken some of the wire which are actually used for the signalling circuit, and then I've painted it in rail match orange. I've taken out the copper wires so they're hollow, and then I've just placed them under track on top of a piece of corrugated plastic to elevate them slightly and also to keep them straight. Once the ballasting is done, I will actually mimic some cables coming from the trunking to the orange tubes. I'm going to be using this. This is actually some rope I had left over from my ship which formed the rigging of it. I'm going to coat it in some PVA to give it a sort of gloss effect, and then hopefully that should look like some steel wired armoured cable. I'm assuming that's what they use on the railways, I'm no expert. The next thing I've also done is I've just added some more plastic card to this walkway, as it was slightly lower than the sleeper height, so now it's the right height, and I've gone over that in some concrete paint. I've also weathered the trunking again. This was because it looked a bit streaky as I did it with a brush and a cotton bud before, but I've done it with some cotton pads now and I've dabbed it, and I've done it a bit heavier as well, so that's looking a bit better. I've also hoovered all of the track, so that's ready for ballasting now. There's no little bits of debris or dust in there, that's all nice and clean. So next it will be ballasting. There's nothing unusual that I can show you about my ballasting technique, it's pretty much the same. I'll be brushing all the ballast into place and then just spraying it with the 50-50 mix of glue and water with a little bit of washing up liquid, and then hopefully that should dry in place then. So the ballast I'll be using is the Woodland Scenics Fine Ballast Light Grey. This is a different ballast from what I have used on previous parts of the layout because I'd like to have this section looking a bit better, and with the light grey ballast I feel like it looks a bit more realistic and new, and the weathering will turn out a bit better on it, so that's why I've just decided to use that. So I shall now get on with the ballast and I shall get back to you. So that's some of the ballasting done, it's just drying now. I've obviously got a bit more to do in the bay platforms and round by the signal gantry, but I shall end this video here and then I shall do a second part to the video in a few days time, and then I'll try and get that uploaded as quick as possible, where I'll be adding detail to the track after ballasting. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it up to this point so far, and I shall bid you farewell. Once again, if you enjoy the content here at Great Deltan, I strongly recommend that you check over Rule 1 Model Railways. Nick over there is building an exhibition layout similar to mine in terms of stock and era. So yeah, give his channel a check out. He's also got some good videos on the hunt couplings. So join me in part 2, and for now, goodbye.